In parts of Nigeria's northwest, the word peace has become complicated. In Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, Kaduna, and Niger corridors, communities once depended on the state for protection, but now they negotiate directly with armed men, people said to be bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists. They negotiate to farm, they negotiate to travel, they negotiate with the bandits for their armed relatives and friends to be released. They also negotiate to open markets. But here is the disturbing question. When a farmer must seek permission before entering his farm, when a community must pay levies before sleeping at night, and when armed groups decide whether a village will be spared or attacked, can that truly be called peace? In recent months, the debate has intensified. Peace accords between bandit groups, local authorities, and communities have been pressed by some people as desperate measures by communities to remain safe. Others see them as dangerous agreements that give armed bandits legitimacy, money, mobility, and political influence. Today, we review these peace deals. Did these peace deals reduce attacks? Did the kidnapping stop? Did farmers return to their farms? Did normal life return? Or did communities merely move from open violence to negotiated fear? My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. This is The Other Side. The peace accords in the Northwest were not just a single treaty. They were negotiated as a solution to the devastating and apparently expanding powers of outlaws, bandits, mercenaries, and terrorists who have been terrorizing those communities. State officials, local authorities, and traditional rulers were present at ceremonies that welcomed armed gunmen on motorbikes who promised to lay down their arms and embrace peace. Some community-led negotiations actually took place with bandits in nearby forests. In Katsina State, for instance, affected areas have included frontline local government areas such as Batsari, Jibia, Safana, Danmusa, Dutsema, Kankara, Faskari, Sabwa, Dandumi, Bakori, and surrounding corridors linked to Zamfara and Sokoto states. The reported terms often sounded simple. Bandits will stop attacks. Communities will stop reporting them to the security or stop confronting them. Abducted persons will be released. Farmers will return to their farms. Markets will reopen. Detained suspects might be reviewed or released. And so-called repentant bandits will be allowed access to their family members, hospitals, markets, and grazing routes. But behind the language of peace was a harsh reality. Many communities did not negotiate because they trusted the bandits. They negotiated because they were exhausted. For years, rural communities faced killing, cattle rustling, road ambushes, school attacks, market raids, kidnappings, and ransom demands. Villagers sold their land, livestock, grain, and family property to pay ransom for abducted relatives. Farmers abandoned their farms. Traders avoided laws. Families fled into towns, and some fled even from the nearby towns to as far places as Abuja or even to Lagos or southern parts of Nigeria. In that situation, a peace deal was not always a sign of confidence. Sometimes it was a sign that communities no longer believed protection will arrive in time. Community members had waited and waited for help that would not come. They were waiting for Godot. Why then did the communities accept to go into these deals with the bandits? The first reason was survival. If a village had been attacked repeatedly and if security forces were far away, the community faced a brutal choice: negotiate, flee, or wait for the next raid. The second reason was famine. In the Northwest, famine is not just an occupation. It is food, dignity, school fees, marriage expenses, household survival, community stability. When farmers cannot reach their land, hunger follows. The third reason was hostage release. Many agreements were justified on the grounds that abducted persons would be released. For families whose relatives were in captivity, even an imperfect deal could feel like a lifeline, and they did not want to miss the lifeline. But this is why the moral dilemma begins. If hostages are released because bandits are rewarded, does that reduce violence or create a stronger hostage economy? The question to ask: nearly a year after these agreements were signed by some of the communities, has peace arrived? Has normalcy resumed? The answer is mixed. In some communities, there were reports of temporary calm. Some roads became usable again. Farmers returned to fields. Markets reopened. Some abductees came home. Community leaders in affected areas said in different ways that people simply wanted a chance to breathe again. But normalcy is not merely the absence of gunfire for a few weeks. Normalcy means children can go to school without fear, farmers can enter their farms without paying groups, traders can move goods without risk. Traditional rulers can speak without threats. Security forces, not bandits, will determine law and order. By that standard, normalcy was not restored, at least for most of the affected areas. What returned in some places was limited movement under fragile and sometimes inhospitable conditions. Some farmers reportedly returned to cultivate. But the key question is whether they return freely or under permission. In some conflict areas across the Northwest, communities have complained of illegal levies imposed on them before they are allowed to go back to their farms, before they harvest, or before they graze, or even for permission to remain in their villages. This means that the peace may have reduced open attacks, but it preserved control in the hands of armed bandits, outlaws, and terrorists. A farmer may go back to the land, but only because the armed group allows him to go back. A trader may open a shop, but only after payment is made or regular payments are made to the bandits. A village may sleep, but only as long as they fulfill the terms laid down by armed men. That is not restored normal life. That is negotiated insecurity. And of course, have the bandits or the terrorists or the kidnappers or the Lakurawas and the other people involved in these killings, have they respected the accords that they reached? The peace agreements have faced repeated violations. The first category is renewed village attacks. In some places, government returned after communities believed an agreement had been reached. Houses were attacked, residents were killed, livestock stolen. One of the most significant examples came from Katsina, where an attack on Doma exposed the fragility of local peace deals. The agreement had reportedly allowed farmers and herders to coexist for some months. But when armed men accused residents of killing one of their members, the truce collapsed into violence. The second category is continued kidnapping. Despite peace discussions, abductions did not cease across all the affected areas. Attacks on travelers, wedding convoys, farmers, and rural residents continue to be reported. And just a few days ago, a retired military general and his wife were kidnapped. This raises another question. Did kidnapping reduce or did it change form? Instead of large public abductions, some communities have faced smaller kidnappings, selective abductions, road seizure, farm captures, and ransom pressure disguised as levies or compensation. A peace process that releases all hostages and allows new hostages to be taken in their place has not solved or reduced the hostage economy. It merely changed the rhythm of captivity. And the third category is reprisal violence. In Jibia local government area of Katsina State, violence involving vigilantes, suspected bandits led to deaths in Falele and Kadobe communities. Authorities describe the violence as a reprisal after earlier clashes. This example again shows one of the hidden weaknesses of peace deals with armed groups. Communities are not united in how they see the process. Some victims' family want justice. Vigilantes may not accept return of the men they believe were responsible for past killings or even killing some of the vigilantes themselves. Groups may accuse vigilantes of betrayal. Security agencies are usually caught between respecting their courts or law enforcement. This, of course, is a dangerous triangle. Bandits, vigilantes, communities trapped between revenge and survival.
Keep our weapons, we do not kill any planning or any other person. We should stop what we are doing. Based on his advice, we accept. That's why now we be a normal people.
The fourth category is illegal levy and taxation. Across the wider Northwest, many residents have described situations where communities are asked to pay money for food, livestock, fuel, grain, or harvest to avoid tax. These payments may be called ransom, settlement, compensation, tax, levy, or peace money. The label may change, but the effect is still the same. Civilians are forced to finance the armed power that threatens them.
We were not going to negotiate on the position of weakness. And that's why we came all out, because we learned from the experience that we have had during the last administration. Government was begging criminals to come for truth.
This is one of the most damaging consequences of their courts. Instead of restoring state authority, arrangements risk creating parallel taxation and parallel governments. The government taxes citizens officially. Groups tax citizens violently. the citizen is trapped between two authorities. The fifth category is factional violence. One bandit leader may agree to peace, but another may reject it. One faction may release hostages, another faction launches attacks. One group may claim to be repentant, while the splinter group continues to attack. Whether they are working in concert or working across purposes is not what we'll be able to understand now. But what is clear, and it did happen recently, that some councillors in one of the northern states who are taking money or were taking money to a faction of the bandits were killed. The fact that peace accord may have been signed with one group does not mean that all the groups respect such an agreement. The bandit landscape is not a single command structure. It is fragmented. It includes criminal gangs, cartel rustling networks, ransom groups, header militias, local warlords, informant networks, increasingly jihadist make actors in the Sahel. A community may negotiate with one commander and may still be attacked by another. This is why many of the peace accords produce temporary calm, but not durable security. Like I said, the recent killing of a councillor and a local government director in Zamfara over alleged links or payments to Lakurawa terrorists has added a new layer of concern. The case was reported in Zamfara, not in Katsina, but it matters for the whole of the Northwest because these conflict corridors are connected. Lakurawa should not be used carelessly as a label for every bandit group. It is better understood as part of a changing threat environment where banditry, jihadist ideology, cross-border movement, vigilante origins, extortion, and rural governance collapse may overlap. The danger is convergence. If criminal bandits, ideological militants, community-level extortion networks begin to interact, compete, communities may be punished for dealing with rival groups. Peace deals, in this case, becomes even more harder to enforce. And what are the excuses that these bandits are giving for the violence that they're inflicting, for breaking the truce that they requested for? Some of them say security forces attacked or arrested their members after they did. Some accuse vigilantes of killing so-called repentant bandits. Some claim communities failed to pay agreed money, compensation, ransom, or levies. Others allege that local leaders betrayed them by giving information to security agencies. Some also complained that detained members were not released. Others claimed that cattle or property seized from them were not returned. Rival factions may say they were never part of the original deal and therefore not bound by them. Jihadist-linked actors may reject the authority of bandit commanders who negotiate with communities because they receive orders from the Sahel or from some people or groups resident outside the areas of conflict. What are the community leaders saying? Have they achieved what they sought out to have peace in their communities? Well, community voices are divided, but their concerns follow pattern. Some traditional and local leaders said that their cause gave their people relief. They argued that when formal security could not stop the violence, negotiations saved lives and allowed hostages to return. Others warned that the deals are dangerous. They say releasing suspected bandits without justice will expose witnesses and victims to revenge. Farmers' voices reveal a painful compromise. Some are relieved to return to their farms, but may not know that the return is fragile. They may cultivate today and feel it tomorrow without harvesting what they have cultivated. Displaced persons ask deeper questions. If they return home from where they have taken refuge in other states or parts of the country, they still have home to return to. They not be living in fear. Women who lost their husbands, children, and relatives ask a single question: where is the justice in a peace that rewards the armed and silences the victims? The central issue, as I've said several times, is not whether violence reduced temporarily. The central issue is who controls the countryside. If bandits decide who farms, who travels, who pays, who returns, and who is punished, then the state's authority has been weakened. If communities negotiate because they cannot rely on protection of the state, then that is no peace. It is evidence of a governance gap. A functioning peace process must include disarmament, accountability, protection of victims, restoration of police and civil authority, self-farming, secure roads, and justice for communities. Without this, any peace deals with these bandits is a temporary pause that may give the bandits or the outlaws the opportunity to go and rearm and come back. Indeed, even the Minister of Defense has warned against deals with outlaws. As a matter of fact, the peace deal economy has the tendency of attracting foreign actors.
The decision by these governors to negotiate with the bandits is not military decision, it's political decision. Even war itself is political activity by other means. That is why war efforts are supposed to be directed by the politicians themselves. So the decision to negotiate is political decision. For us, we will face the kinetic line of action, which is to continue to deal with those bandits.
This is not the first time in Nigeria. In the 80s, whenever any of the warring factions in Chad needed cash, they simply marched into Nigeria, set up roadblocks, razed down villages, pillaged communities to get money, and go back to Chad. This was how the phrase Kwanta Kwanta became popular. There have been chatters for some years now that the Al-Qaeda terror groups in Mali and Burkina Faso benefit from the Nigerian kidnap ransom economy. And of course, the peace deals have provided safe havens from which these kidnappings are staged from. And so the question to ask now, did the peace accords collapse? The answer is not that simple. They did not collapse everywhere. In some communities, they created temporary calm. Some hostages were released. Some farmers returned to land. Some roads and markets reopened. But of course, everywhere, these accords did not produce durable peace. Attacks continued. Kidnappings did not cease. Levies and ransom economies remained. Reprisals exposed the weaknesses of the arrangement. Rival factions undermined local agreements. And the rise of jihadist-linked actors such as the Lakurawa in the wider region has made the security picture even more complex. What the Northwest has not seen is full normalcy. It is partial relief under pressure. It's rural life negotiated at gunpoint. And the people holding the guns have not left the area. And the people who are supposed to come to rescue the rural areas have not yet come. Peace is not simply when guns become silent for a short time. Peace is when citizens no longer need permission from criminals to live normal lives. This is the real test for Katsina and the wider Northwest. Can government convert temporary local truces into lawful security, justice, and restored livelihoods? Or will communities remain trapped between bandit violence and negotiated survival? For the other side, I am Rimamnde Shawulu. We need your support to continue to bring analysis that give clarity to the security and governance issues of Nigeria. The best support you can give us now is to share this video or join our online discussion, and make sure that you don't forget to like our video.